Howdy. Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all, Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
hitting you with another incredible episode of Motivation Monday to get you fired up, answer some of your questions, talk about where we're at in our journey. And we have three really amazing questions today. So I'm really excited. I'm going to waste no time, and we're going to jump into it with that first question out of the mailbag. So the first question is how/what should I do about uneven body parts? And the specific context of this question was that one arm was bigger than the other. And he was wondering, how can I combat this? How can I actually make a point to balance this out or make sure I'm not making this problem worse? And this is something I see very, very often in people that are newly lifting and people that have been lifting for a long time. It's very common to have one side of our body that we favor. Obviously, we have a dominant arm, and sometimes it can be opposite the dominant arm. Myself, I use my left arm to pick up most of the 45s. When I was a trainer, I noticed my left side was way stronger, and I attributed that likely to me lifting and changing weights and doing a lot with my left arm to keep my right arm free for if I needed anything just quickly to do. So I actually found that a little bit interesting. But as you lift, you will find this. And I think the most common one that I hear this in is the chest. For both men and women, people say, hey, I find my left chest is a little bit bigger. And in that case, the answer is a little more obvious. Your heart's there, so it's natural for that to protrude a little bit more forward and for that not to be exactly the same. And that is something that, once again, is quite normal. The arms are quite normal from having that dominant side. It's less common in the legs, but I'm going to kind of go through this and some solutions as to what you can do. So the first thing is you absolutely should do something. Some people would argue do nothing. It's not a big deal. An imbalance isn't huge. And for most people, small imbalances really aren't a big issue if it's very, very small and no one can notice it. Whereas I've seen a silly reel where this guy only shrugs with one trap, and it actually is hilarious. I truly believe the body wants to be symmetrical, but it's amazing how much he's developed that one trap compared to the untrained trap. So it's kind of a unique science experiment, if you will. But in general, the difference will be very moderate. So even when I go in for a DEXA, I'll usually notice that one side of my body will have 3% more muscle than the other side. I'm not worrying about that. If it was anything extreme, I would actively make a point to combat that. But some general brushstroke solutions that will just tend to fix this for most people is moving from compounds to unilaterals. So instead of just doing things with both your muscles, and I say compounds because when you think bench, squat, deadlift, or any compound multi-muscle movement, usually you'll optimize that by not doing it unilaterally, which just means you'll just do one motion instead of doing it with each limb individually. So I could do a leg press or I could do a single leg press. Technically, a single leg press is still a compound, but you kind of think of it as narrowing more in on one leg. But by me really actively working one leg at a time, you will notice that one leg often is stronger than the other. And the problem with this is if I do that leg press and I do it just naturally, I can overcompensate with my strong side and actually take some of the pressure and power off of my weak side. And I can further exacerbate that indifference and therefore further create more imbalance in muscle. So if you don't do much unilateral training, this is something you want to really be aware of. And I really look at this when my clients come to my program. I get their photos, I get their measurements. Sometimes I catch these imbalances. And when I do, I really focus in on having a lot of unilateral training. And I do find that fixes it quite quick. And you don't need to do anything too drastic. If it's a very significant issue and people are really insistent on fixing it faster, what I recommend is always starting with the weaker side first. Because if I can only do 8 reps on that weaker side, but I find on my stronger side on that leg press and I've reached failure, I could do 12. I'll stop myself at 8 and naturally it'll start to level out. And I've done this in the past and it's been really effective. So that is one thing you can be aware of. Always starting with that weak side and then just stopping shy on that strong side. So you're not doing 8 reps with the weak, 15 reps with the strong side and continuing that issue. So if you're mindful of that, you add more unilateral training. These common fixes will fix most things. And once again, bench press is another good example. You'll see some guys bench and it will be so uneven. The bar will just be absolutely crooked. If this is happening, it could be mobility issues, it could be strength issues, but that stronger side is going to compensate so much more. And that's why that bench is so unequal. And that's going to just lead to so much imbalance because going back to that example of a compound lift, on that bench press, I'm working my triceps, I'm working my chest, I'm working my shoulders, my biceps or antagonist muscles on the way down. Like I'm working on the negative to actually control that bar. So there's a lot of things that will get affected by me using one side dominantly over the other. So that's where you want to be really careful. If you do start to notice this, just fix it. So to that example of someone who's benching, if this is a problem, grab the dumbbells, do each side individually, and you'll be very quite aware. And with dumbbells, there's less hiding. So that was my third and final tip, is to utilize dumbbells, because if one side's going up and one side's barely moving, you're like, oh shoot, I need to narrow in on this and figure that out. So once again, you can use that same rule I had before. Just stop at failure when that weak arm is finished, and you will start to naturally see this start to improve.
Yeah, even myself, I've had some different imbalances over the years that I've had to take a step back from like those barbell movements and then just do a cycle of 12 weeks, let's say just dumbbells. Like Josh said, like it does seem like the bench press into dumbbell bench press is a common one. Even shoulder press, right? We see a lot of people like you just, the bar is like one side like tipped over. And then if you just switch over to dumbbells, like you'll really see that difference, and it'll allow you to, understand what's going on there. But I see a lot of other things that you may not even realize. Like let's say tricep push downs. It's very possible that one side is doing not most, but like a couple extra reps of the work, and you may not even realize it. So like even from doing different tests, like I notice different things when I do single arm tricep push downs. I can kind of test it out and see, okay, everything's even, we're good here. So it is a good idea to like test these things out occasionally to make sure everything's all good, right? Because it's so easy to just go about the routine and everything and not realize that there's some different things going on where one side is being used more than the other. Another small thing is trying to do outside, and this is outside of the gym, but being conscious of like how much you do with that one side. So I've accepted that my right side is always going to be more dominant. It's going to be, just stronger, even though I've had a past shoulder injury, like it still is, that shoulder and that arm. But, when you think about it, like every single thing you do, whether it's picking up your kids, I notice even when I pick up my hockey bag, like it always goes on the one side, like when I open a door, when I push a door, like everything like that. So I'm like, okay, trying to switch it up to, use that other side to give that, more strength and just like utilization as well. So that's something that I'm always trying to be aware of. It's not as easy to implement, but yeah, I think there's a lot of things, and I'm specifically trying to think back to legs as well, because these are things I've gone through, even having a past groin injury. Like there's still some times where I'm like, even doing single leg press, I'm like, I need to be mindful of this. Like I can tell that one side is still a little bit off. And some people with barbell squats, like you can see they're tilted over. You can see like this one's not as dramatic and you won't notice as a bench press, but like there's different things where your one side will rise quicker than the other. And, it just looks really off. And if you start to do lots of, lunge work and Bulgarian split squat work and single leg press work and single leg hamstring curls, you can just really fix this over time. And the last thing that I've been implementing, and I will do sometimes, especially because the hamstring curl, I notice my one side is a bit weaker, is I'll start with my weaker side. Let's say we have 10 reps prescribed. I'll do 8 reps on the weaker side. I'll do my 10 on my stronger side, and then I'll go back and do my last 2 on the weaker side, just so I can still do 10 and 10, even though I couldn't do 10 consecutively on the weaker left side. So these are all great things to consider, a lot of takeaways, and I'm sure a lot of things you can also improve on your journey as well.
Yeah, and I'll never forget when we were doing this extra personal training cert, the side cert we were doing that was really awesome. They showed a video of like improper squats, and we were going through hip hinging and all that great stuff. And he showed a video of a guy squatting, and it was the grossest, worst squat we've ever seen in our life. Like he really was tilting to one side and just looked odd. It was really odd how he'd put the one hip back and squat more from that side. And then he asked everyone, like, does this person seem like someone who's an athlete? And we're like, well, not really, right? And he's like, yeah, this guy's in the NBA. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, right? But if you consider, even for them, they're pivoting off one side, their dominant side, they're jumping in a certain pattern and moving in a certain way where history matters so much, and usually there's a reason. And even to Kyle's point, like it's even funny, I have a really chunky baby and he's heavy, and my last son's heavy too. They're both about 30 pounds, and I like to hold them in my left side, so I'm trying to be mindful to hold them in my right, but I could further create more of a gap in that problem. So that's where really good programming is more important than ever before, like because programming can fix most of these things. And I really actually went down this thought today on a little bit of a side tangent, but it's funny how naturally you're born, and as long as you're in good health, you can do most things. You can put your arms overhead. Babies can squat really, really nicely. They can sit. These movement, these strengths, we're able to do a lot of these things. And the reason I mention this, it's funny for me, like I really took how healthy my shoulders were for granted. I think I was bragging about it on the podcast recently, and like even the concept of moving my arm overhead, having full mobility, having no pain, no impingement. And then when you dislocate it, you're like, oh my gosh, it starts to go away. But that's life, and things happen, and you have to rework for these things, unfortunately, as life goes on. And if you've created problems from blessings, like you had a kid and you're always carrying them on one side, you might have to start looking at programming to fix that. But the great news is you can actively do it. And even me, like learning more about shoulder mobility, battling impingement, regaining strength after dislocation, it's really cool to see that if you put in the work towards anything, you absolutely will see the result. And if you have an imbalance and visually it annoys you, or physically it limits you, you can really actively work to start to improve these things. And even those NBA players, right, they're going to have potential future mobility issues. I know golfers get a lot of hip and knee injuries because they're swinging so intensely on one side over and over. So that's where you want to be really aware. Maybe you're not an elite athlete, but you're someone who likes to golf 3 times a week. You want to start making sure you're balancing yourself in the gym, in training. So you can really use training for actual health and for movement in that capacity, as well as aesthetic difference. So there's a lot that can go in, and that's why it's more important than ever to have a really, really good training routine. And on that note, there's a quote I wanted to share that I love, and it's, if you think the price of winning is too high, wait till you get the bill of regret. And this just hit me like a brick. And to this point, like when opportunity comes, it's really important you seize it. And right now, we mentioned before, this is the last chance to get our early access summer shred challenge pricing. So if you wanted to jump into coaching, maybe you've never made that investment before, now is your best time, because you're gonna get those early access deals 25% off, and that literally goes away tomorrow. So if you want to take advantage of this, message us today or check out the first link. That's going to explain what my coaching is, how it works, why I've been able to help over 4,500 people one-on-one online. And just know I'm going to make a routine custom for you. I'm going to do custom nutrition, give you the accountability to navigate the highs and the lows. And when you go to hotel for the weekend for a work event, and when it's your birthday and you want to have cake, I'm going to be with you every step of the way to blast through every roadblock, every excuse, to make sure you can see results and see long-term sustainable results. So don't pay that price. Don't pay that price of the bill of regret saying, oh, if only I did this. I've had people reach out for coaching. Everything was perfect. I'm like, let's do this. They're like, I'm just going to wait. And then they come back a year later and they're like, oh, okay, I'm in. I should have done it earlier. Let's see how it goes. And then when they're getting those results, it's like, oh, so many people tell me they kick themselves because they're like, I could have been so much further ahead, so much happier, and saved a lot of money on some of the other nonsense I spent in the meantime. So if you're serious about seeing change, let me do the hard work for you. Click that link, fill out an application, and we'll take it from there. Take advantage of this early access pricing for this challenge. It's going to be a killer challenge. I'm going to support you through that, before it, and after it. So this is a perfect time to make your dreams a reality. But we're going to jump into our quotes, our true quotes. I had my little intro quote, if you will, but we'll pass them off to Kyle, and then we'll go back to me.
Yeah, so my quote for today is, you didn't come this far to only come this far. So I think I've seen it from a lot of like motivational speeches where, the coach or like maybe the captain or something is just like yelling at the team and just saying, in a very intense voice, like, come on boys, you didn't come this far to only come this far. And I had to sit and think about it for a second, right? Because like when you're talking sports, it's probably that team who like maybe had a really great regular season, but then they're in playoffs and they've had a really great playoff season. And it's like, we've already made it this far. Like, why not win this whole thing? Why not push to that next level? And then when I bring it back to thinking of the fitness journey, because that's how my mind goes, is I'm always thinking of the journey so I can better support myself, but also every single one of you. A lot of people have done some really great things. Like a lot of you listening have come over, overcome being overweight, obese, having an eating disorder maybe, or just like never seen results. And you started to do some incredible things. I see a lot of people go backwards and self-sabotage, but I also see a lot of people just like stop and just say, hey, I'm totally cool. And that's fine if you're really, really happy. But I see a lot of people who have gotten to a certain point, like, hey, they've come this far, but like they have so much more potential. Like they can go from good to great. They can lose some more body fat. They can increase their strength more, build some more muscle, and just reach new heights. So if you've overcome, like, what's the point of overcoming all these challenges and these different things going on just to kind of be like, all right, well, I'm done pushing forward. Like I'm chilling now. And like I said, this is a bit hard for some people to hear because they're like, hey, I'm totally happy. But I truly believe if you're not evolving, you're dying. And I think it's a really good reminder that you should continue to push forward. You should have new goals and new milestones because, yeah, like you've already gone through so much. So, like, why not keep going and keep putting in that hard work? So that's my quote for today.
Yeah, I remember it's in a song. I think Kim Kardashian says it, and then they're like, wow, that's really profound. And then I think she's like, I heard it on Instagram or something, but it is really true. And it's funny, this actually came up on our team meeting, and everyone was saying, wow, I like that. And this is something, no matter where you are in life, it's something to reflect on because it's a great point. Like, you're never done. And we face that challenge sometimes where we'll help people see their transformation, they'll achieve it, and they'll be like, all right, I'm good. And it's like, oh, you got to learn to keep growing off this. And it's not saying you need to keep doing crazy thresholds of intensity and leveling up, but you do need to be aware of it. And you need to actually say, how can I at least sustain this at the very least? And if not, grow past it. And to Kyle's point, I do believe if you're not growing, you're dying. So it's a great opportunity to improve from that position. But the second you just take your foot off the gas, right? Like, I could drive really fast, let go. Eventually I'm going to come to a stop. Like, you got to keep that momentum going. So I think that's an incredibly true point. So for my quote, because I like the first quote I shared, my second one's going to be more of a mantra and something I live by, and that is one more. I've said this probably more times than I should have on this podcast, but I always come back to that concept of one more. Like, how can you do one more and push yourself just to see a little bit more? And this is something I want to challenge you with this week. So if you're in the gym, can you do one more rep? See if you're capable to push yourself there. Can you do one more day of healthy eating when normally you slack on the weekend? One more healthy meal at home? Like, in any component of life, it's such a good challenge. Can you go a little bit further on that walk? And I think as you start to stretch yourself, similar when you're stretching at home, it's uncomfortable, but eventually you adapt to that new level. And this is something that's been on my mind a lot this week. So if you want to elevate and grow and reach a new level, it's going to require that extra little bit of action. So that extraordinary action, you need to be past what ordinary people would do. And going on top of that, if you go the extra mile, it's never crowded there. And I think Kyle shared that recently. So this concept, just in your day-to-day, look how you can do one more, how you can push yourself. And I like this because it isn't asking crazy, massive, insane action of you. It's just asking you to give a little bit more. And what's nice is you keep doing that. It's really amazing how it sticks up. So that was my bonus quote, I guess, if you will. Really do like the other one once again. I don't want you to miss out on this. Don't let opportunities slip you by. This is the chance. There is no better chance to sign up for coaching because you're getting the challenge for free plus the coaching. So make sure to click that link.
I really like that first quote, especially because Josh said it to me this morning. I sat there, I'm like, holy. So like, I was thinking like, because I always try to think like practically when a quote's shared, I'm like, I try to make sense of it, right? Sometimes people are just like, oh yeah, that's cool. And they don't really think about it. But I'm like thinking of myself just being handed like a smaller bill right now of, let's say, 1,000. But then like 30 years goes down the road. I didn't prioritize my health and, I'm sick and I'm not feeling great. And then someone just hands me that bill for like 30,000 or something like crazy. And I'm like, man, like if only I took action now, like when it was cheaper, like, 500,000, whatever that number is. And I always talk about the cost of inaction, right? So a lot of times people don't realize that when they don't prioritize, and this can go for anything, right? It could be missing an opportunity, not getting into an investment or a stock at the right time, not prioritizing your relationship. And then unfortunately things are gone. But obviously financially and, health-wise, like that's the biggest thing that we're talking about here. But yeah, like the cost of inaction for most people, it's like, it adds up, a couple years down the road, depression and anxiety and different medications and different things that, you're in the hospital for. Like, just don't let it catch up to you. And that bill is not a good one. I've seen it from a lot of people. People have come to us and said, honestly, like this is nothing compared to what I've had to pay to fix different things in the past. So I really like that quote. But on that note, the one thing for me today is just about perspective. So perspective's everything, right? And you can really trick your mind with perspective. So a random example, the other day I was coming back from Miami and I kept searching to see what the time was like to get back, and it said 2 hours, and I was like, no way, like this is just like driving me nuts. I was like, I can't do this. And then when it came down to it, it was like 1:10. I was like, man, this is the best thing ever. Like, it's so quick. When in reality, like when Josh and I have gone in the past and like different times, it's usually like 30 minutes. Like that's what it should be, is like just over. And so I was happy with that time because it was like better than what it was supposed to be. And I think of perspective a lot because you can do a lot of mind tricks like on your journey, and you can trick your mind into kind of thinking, something's better for you, right? So even myself, like having gone through so many dieting phases, now that I've done it so much that I can eat more. And I always think back to those times where it's like, on a crazy low amount of calories, I'm like, all right, cool. So I use these like little tricks if I'm struggling or if it's tough to be like, it could be worse, right? Even within workouts, like I've squatted almost, 475 pounds now. And, yes, I don't love loading the bar up, but I'm like, at least it's not that much that I have to do right now. So the point is that whatever way you want to utilize perspective, you can definitely sit down and you can play some mind tricks with yourself to get you to, be happier with doing that harder thing. And that's just my random thought for today.
Absolutely. And I guess what's been on my mind is I got a text recently being like, hey, what's the secret sauce of your program? Like, how are you able to get all these amazing results? And he said, is it just counting calories and working out? And it's so funny because the secret, and I've said this before, the honest secret to my program, like what you're paying me for, is just helping you better do these things, right? It's doing these basics of moving more, moving better, building strength, eating healthier, and doing it more consistently. Like that's really what it comes down to. And at its core, it is so simple. It really is the most simple thing. Where it gets tough is when you add in psychology, history, ambition, like just different things that come alongside it. So it's a metric of actually doing it over and over again intelligently, right? Like we all roughly know what to do, but sometimes in the application of it, that's where it gets a little bit tough because in those moments we can second guess our thing or we are second guess ourselves. We can be too lenient. We can want that extra step. And that's where online coaching is so good is because we're there to call you out on all that, give you the resources and help you explain them. And something that we're really big on too is helping you understand why we're doing what we're doing so you can see lasting change. Like there are some great coaches out there that will get you diced and shredded and you'll look amazing. But the whole time you're going to be so hungry, you're going to nuke your hormones into the ground. And as soon as you're off that program, you are just going to go so far the other direction. And that's where you see all these people balloon up afterwards. And it really is sad. Whereas if you create habits, I mean, you see me and Kyle, we live this life through all the challenges that come, right? Like getting married, kids, going to school, just different things that will pop up. There's always solutions when you actually use the systems and strategies to make that happen. And I've said before, at its core, you need to be on a really good routine. You need to have a nutritional program where you're actually at your maintenance calories if you want to maintain, below if you want to cut, above if you want to bulk. You need to, like I said, the routine, you need the accountability. But in that in between, there's so much that can happen and there's so many different things that can complicate it past that. So the secret sauce, it's so much easier with accountability. Like maybe you've ever tried to figure something out in the past, whereas you have a friend who's a pro at something and they show you how to do it. It's amazing how much quicker you can come to it. So I just wanted to make that point, and I wanted to remind everyone too, if you are looking for a secret and maybe you're not ready to invest in coaching right now, or you don't want to look great for summer or something, I don't know. But if that is you, like I challenge you, be consistent, just the same. Like whatever you're looking to do, be consistent with it because that really is the secret and that's what it comes down to. And I think this is a perfect segue into our client shout out this week because this is someone who has been consistent. We actually have a 3-tier transformation that you can see on the screen right now for Taylor, which is absolutely amazing. Like her at the start of her journey, her when she could have said, I'm done, I'm good here, and then pushing past like a whole new level. It's crazy the result change. So go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, and she even had to underwent a surgery recently, and she still looked for solutions. It's a great example working off of our post the other day with Josh and his shoulder, and just like it's easy to just throw in the towel, but then both of them, they were just sitting there like, hey, what can I do? How can I do it? How do I work around this? What's the rehab like? I'm going to have my coach and the specialist help me out. Like that's really the solution is just like staying consistent with no matter what goes on in your life. And Taylor's a great example through everything, through moves, she's gone through it all. Like, she's a teacher. She's busy. Like she's lost over 100 pounds. Her entire identity has changed. She's a whole new person and she's just crushing it. She's setting a great example for her students for when she, would bring for some friends into the program and people are asking, what the heck have you been doing? They ask her what the secret sauce is. And she says, hey, it's Colossus Fitness. Like I give all the credit. But of course, we have to give her credit where credit's due. She's the one that's put in the work. She's the one that reached out for help at the start. And she's the one that's staying consistent no matter what. And I think where a lot of people struggle is off of Josh's topic there with the secret sauce is like there's on one end, there's people who are ultra consistent, but they're just doing the wrong stuff. Like their routine's off. They're not tracking nutrition properly. Like they're there every day. Like you see that person there, they're always trying to eat healthier, but it's just with the wrong stuff. And then on the other end, a lot of inconsistencies where people are 1 week on, 1 week off. They're all or nothing, which we'll talk about shortly. And that's usually what goes on. Like there's one side where, like I said, people are consistent, just the wrong stuff. The other side, they're just not showing up. That's where Tayler has the accountability. Like, yes, she's super consistent, but she has the right game plan. She has us by her side to help her out. So we're so proud of her. Give her a shout. Leave her a shout. Leave her some support on our Instagram. Every Monday we make a post, and that would mean the world. So great job, Tayler. And excited to see the continued growth.
Yeah, I like to see a fitness journey as like a great example, I think, is climbing a mountain. We know how to climb a mountain. It's pretty straightforward. You move your legs, you move your feet, you keep going up, but there's going to be a lot of obstacles across the way. And that's where most people, when they want to climb Mount Everest or something, they hire a Sherpa, someone who's been there. So when they get to that roadblock and they're like, the path's blocked, what do I do? They're like, okay, here's the way around, or it's not safe. We got to back off, 1 step backwards, 2 steps forwards. And this is very much what coaching is like, because it is obvious what we need to do, but there are a lot of complexities as you come. You're like, oh, I got to scale this wall. How do I use this mountaineering equipment? What do I do? And it's very much the same with coaching. And I think too, as you reach different levels and as you get higher up that mountain, it's going to be steeper terrain. It's going to be harder to see progress. And that's where I'm really proud of Tayler for continuing to invest in herself and to reach new heights, because it's really easy to get started in fitness. I find obviously we can all lose a couple pounds, start lifting a little bit, but to get more advanced at it, that is where you do need more strategic principles. You need things like reverse diets, diet breaks, advanced programming, daily and early periodization, progressive overload, all these great things. So you need to be using these things to actually scale forward, because doing just what you've done won't get you past where you are. So to Kyle's point, you haven't come this far to only come this far. If you want to break past where you've been, it will take new, increased effort, that one more mentality. And the best and easiest way to navigate that is with a Sherpa, with a coach. So I know I mentioned it a few times, but like I said, I want to save you money. I want to get you in at the best time, and I want to actually see you transform. So this is literally the perfect time. Last chance for the early access for the Summer Shred Challenge. Click that link. Don't miss out. But now we're going to get into our second question, which is, how do I get into a good fitness routine? I find I'm so all or nothing.
So that's a fantastic question. And I'm going to start by saying I personally use my Google Calendar for everything. So I really recommend like scheduling things out. So between the workouts, between the walks, like that alone, it's incredibly motivating just to see the consistent things that I need to do. And I live by my calendar, so I think it's fantastic. But that is, I know a lot of times some people are like, hey, I just haven't been in the gym. I just haven't done this and that. And like, I'll recommend this. And they're like, oh, I never thought about that. Like, I haven't been doing that. I haven't been using a calendar. But I think the biggest problem and the solution within this, because here you're saying you're all or nothing, is just to sit down and actually come up with a good game plan. Like take 30 minutes, pull out a pen and paper and brainstorm. Where have I gone wrong in the past? What do I believe I need to be doing? How much time should I spend in the gym? Like I said, like Josh has been saying, like this will be hard by yourself because you may have a lot of things going on in your head where you're like, I'm going 7 days a week. You're super fired up. You just saw some motivational video and you're like 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not going to eat any junk. I'm going to fully eat clean. You need someone that's going to sit there and say, listen, this isn't realistic. You shouldn't be doing this. We need to create something that you can actually stick to. That's something that we have specialized in, helping over 4,000 people, with this, because we've had to say to some people, hey, listen, let's start small. Let's build those habits and build that routine. And that's going to be my biggest tip, is just to like do less than you think you should for the first week, but enough where you feel motivated, because a lot of people will like either do too little where they don't feel like they've done much and they're just like, oh, well, I'm not even doing anything. And then on the other hand, some people will overload and get burnt out because they're like, man, I can't keep this up. And it's incredibly demotivating. So that's my biggest thing. And then my last tip is just like, whenever you don't feel like doing something, just do it. And I was thinking about this the other day when I had a really bad sleep. I was out for my morning walk and I'm like, it wasn't even a question, like, should I go for my morning walk? Hitting that not leg day, we did back day, hitting that workout with Josh, like, it wasn't a question of like, should I do this? It's like, no matter what, whether it's raining, it's snowing, I'm sore, I'm tired, it's still going to get done. And you need to operate at that level to be able to be consistent, or else you're just going to pick days to do things and you're just never going to do it because you're just going to keep making excuses and putting it off. So that's my answer for that one.
Yeah, Kyle crushed that one because that was my exact answer, is to start small and then be progressive from there. Because even in this question, being all or nothing, it's just really easy to say, like, I'm going to start doing this hour of running a day and I'm going to lift twice as long as I was and I'm never eating junk food. It's not sustainable. You're going to burn out so quick. You're going to resent it. On the days you don't do it, you're going to go so opposite the direction that you've been doing. Whereas instead, and I like Kyle's point a lot too about doing even a little bit less than you'd like to do, because each day you're going to be excited. You're going to be like, oh, I can't wait to work out longer. I can't wait to eat even healthier. And I like that idea of progressively moving forward and then really just making a point to be consistent with it. And consistency is hard because you can't just inherently do it, and it's something you need to build into. Obviously, like Kyle's point, there's probably days he did skip the walk, but he's done it so much now that it's easier. And it's to accept that these days will happen. Accept there will be days you'll be imperfect. There will be days that are really hard. There will be days that'll be hard and you'll make the right decision like Kyle did. And there will be days that are really hard and maybe you don't make the right decision, you're weak. And in those moments, I really challenge you to utilize the never miss twice rule. So if you do have a bad day, don't have two bad days. If you have a bad meal, don't have two bad meals. Bad week, don't have two bad weeks. So it's a very simple system, but it's a good way to autocorrect and keep you on the right path, because it's not realistic to assume you'll never stumble or you'll never fall, but instead just have a way and a checking mechanism. And accountability is the best way through this. A coach, a friend, a training partner, someone else who's working towards the same goal as you. This goes a long way because it'll kind of pull you and help you make that easier decision. So I love Kyle's tips there. And like I said, the best thing with the fitness routine is just to be consistent, start small, and really make it fit within your life. It shouldn't be really extra. Like, you want to really limit the burden there. So if you have an opportunity to go to a gym, maybe there's an amazing gym 5 minutes to you, but it's a little more expensive, but there's a cheap gym an hour away, you'd probably save money and make a smarter decision going to the close one, because you're actually going to go. You're not going to drive an hour to go to this poor gym. So you really need to be aware of that and really make things accessible, easy for yourself, so it makes it easier for you to make good decisions. Just the same, if you have to go to the gym early in the morning, start the day before by winning that battle, getting to bed, so it's easier to make that right decision.
Yeah, so well said. I'm really glad Josh brought that up, because I want to make it clear I'm not perfect and I do make a lot of mistakes. And that's the principle to live by. It's just, when it happens, don't do it again. At least try your best not to. So many examples where, like, one day I miss out on my calories, and it's like easy. And Josh shared a reels with me that was really good. It's like where someone like makes a mistake and they keep making mistakes just because they've made one mistake. Just don't do that, right? I know it's easier said than done, but for me, it's like, okay, next day, how do I really stay on track here? And that's what it's all about. Even like the one time I missed out on my protein, instead of beating myself up saying, oh, well, I'm not going to fill out my spreadsheet, I'm not going to log like any of this stuff. It's like, all right, well, now I'm going to do it even better and make sure I don't make that mistake again. And that's how you avoid having that all or nothing mindset. Is just like, when you mess up or slip up, you keep going and you try to find ways to, not do it again.
Awesome. Now we're going to jump in the mailbag for our last and final question of the day. We haven't spoke about this in a while, so I'm pretty pumped for this one. Good morning, Coach Josh and Coach Kyle. I wanted to ask a quick question. So about 1 to 2 months ago, I hit a 1 rep max of 345 on deadlift. Now it seems that I've hit a brick wall and the 315 isn't even moving that good. I'm struggling to get the weight up consistently and I'm confused why. My diet has gotten better since my 1 rep max. My other PRs are making good progress and my workouts have been going smoothly. Do you have any advice on what I could do to try to get through this brick wall, or any idea why this is happening?
Very good question. And my first thing is going to have to be just the programming. I know we've talked a lot about that, but there's some days you're feeling it and some weeks, and it's like very different. And like when it comes to compounds, something Josh is a specialist at, and he does for all my stuff, is like, it's progressive, right? So like, if I were to just go in every time and just try to hit 275 on the bench, and it'd just be like, some days it would move, some days it wouldn't, some days it'd be faster than others. Whereas when he takes a look at a routine and properly periodizes it to get me to peak at a certain point, to get me to hit a PR at a certain point, and each week progresses in different ways, that's what allows me to gain a lot of strength and actually, similar to all of our clients. And I see a lot of people struggle because they're always just trying the same things. Like, for example, if I were to say, hey, what weights have you been doing? To a lot of people, it's like 3x8, 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 3x8. And they've just always been trying close to their max. Whereas like for something like us, our routine, it might be like 75% of our 1 rep max for this first week. We might go to 80% for the second week. We might go to 82.5 for the third, and the reps change within that. I don't have an exact example, but the point is that it's progressing. Week 5, volume will go up a little bit, then it'll go down a little bit. Like there's things happening, and that's where like I have a lot of other tips that I'm sure Josh will say, but my first thing is you need to be on a proper routine and not just like doing random weights and picking what you feel and, whatever you feel makes the most sense on that, because that's where I see a lot of people struggling personally.
Yeah, deadlifts are really hard, and it can be hard sometimes to actually pull that weight and be consistent with it. And if your volume's all messed up and your routine isn't progressive, as Kyle said, I'd say that's the easiest thing. As for like the loss of strength, I'd imagine when the diet was cleaned up, maybe some weight was lost. One of the easiest ways to really feed your lifts and to actually be able to lift a lot heavier is to eat more calories, be in a surplus. So some people will have this challenge where when they lose some weight, like maybe you lose 10 pounds, maybe you lose 40 pounds on your deadlift. So when I'm in a cutting phase, I really make sure I program against that to try to maintain my strength, if not increase it as I'm cutting. And of course, it's a challenge, but with intelligent programming, this can absolutely be done. So it's hard to just throw shots in the dark as to why this is happening. Some other things I would say is sometimes with powerlifting, it'll be really weird. You'll have 2 lifts I find that will really go up where one will be kind of stagnant and not move. And as long as you're net getting stronger in 2 out of the 3, I do find that third one will eventually level out. If you are noticing it really starting to die out, you need to analyze and try different things. Deadlifts are funky because normally with lifting, you want to do more volume to see more strength. Sometimes deadlifting less can actually feed that deadlift, and instead doing intelligent like programming around it, that's going to feed into that deadlift and really isolating where you're weak on that particular lift. So if your lockout sucks, you might want to put more effort and energy into glute training and avoid doing really taxing intense deadlifts where you're going to destroy your central nervous system and really be exhausted. But you can actively improve that weakness in the lift to improve that lift and do less volume to have more ability in your other lifts, which also will feed into it. A good squat will feed into a good deadlift, vice versa. So this is where you can get really in the weeds with it, and there's a lot of different things to be aware of. But I do find self-analysis too of where you're failing on your lifts or where you feel you aren't as strong, and really targeting that weakness and blasting through it is one of the fastest ways to actually see more strength. Outside of that, you can always bulk. That's another great opportunity. And then next, you can play with frequency, and maybe you are doing it once a week. Like I said, that level of energy you put in has only gotten you to this 345. It might take you going twice a week or playing around with kind of the schema of how you're doing it, doing some speed deadlifts to really battle that. It may take more accessories to feed into that compound. So there are a lot of different considerations, and without me getting more into the info here, it's harder for me to really jump into that. But it's something we absolutely love doing. We've coached dozens and dozens of people their first powerlifting win, which is absolutely amazing. We've obviously banked quite a few ourselves, which we're really proud of. So no matter what your goal, we'd be happy to get you there. And if you want to learn more about our coaching, 25% off. Last chance to do it. This ends April 1st. So if you reach out then, you can still message us. Unfortunately, this won't be available. But if you're catching us in March, be sure to click that link, fill out an application, because we look forward to transforming your life. I want to thank you for tuning into this podcast today. We wish you a fantastic day. Hope it's full of energy, great lift, and some progress. If you like this podcast, share it to your story. That'd mean the world, or share it to any position of media. It really does go a long way, and it helps us grow. Let us know you loved it as well. So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out.